Hi everybody, my name is Jeremy, this is Red Beans Recording, and on March 18th, I'll be releasing 10 songs as an album called Rituals that I made completely on the Mate tracker right here. I was unbelievably inspired by this little friend. It brought out a lot of really nostalgic memories of creativity because this is the way that I first started making music, and the fact that it was portable meant that I could just take it anywhere. And while my partner played Elden Ring, I made some jams. And through that period of time, I learned a few things that I wanted to share with you today that might make your getting up to speed with the Mate a little bit easier. Because again, this is kind of an inscrutable way to make music, honestly. It's kind of like a scrolling spreadsheet. But there's some things that'll make it easier and more fun, and maybe some things that you might miss at first that might be fun for you to try. So that's what this is about, a few tips and tricks for getting started with the Mate tracker. The first thing that I would recommend is when you get a new song going on, that you set the first pattern here to FE over here, set up an FE pattern, and then go into that pattern and add yourself 4 FEs. What have we just done? Well, we made a 4-bar chain of nothing. This will be really important when you want things to scroll properly. These are like little spacers, you put them in. I also like to set up a FD. And with FD, I do FD, FE, FE, FE. And then I go into FD, and I go over to our effects tab, and I choose kill. And I put kill in all 3 of the first effects columns. So what have we done here? Well, it's the same length of chain. It's 4 bars. That's the amount of bars I like to work with in here, and that's another tip I'll talk about in just a smidge. But we've created our spacer, the FE, and then FD is what I use when I want to completely stop any holdover from a previous track playing, or reset any commands that might have been incrementing. So I have my FE pattern, which is my filler, my blank pattern, and then I have FD, which is my kill pattern. So you'll get to know the kill command a little bit more. It's very useful. But think of it this way: if you had like a long sample and you triggered it, or something with a long release, and you wanted it to immediately stop in the next section, you'd use an FD as opposed to an FE to kill any overhang from that sound. So FEs, FDs, you can actually put those on anything you want. I just like to put them way at the top, FE and FD for that. Okay. The second tip that I have has to do with chains and when you should start them in terms of numbers. When the first couple tracks I made were all over the place, I just was like incrementing chain numbers willy-nilly, and they look like a mess. I can't keep track of anything. Chains are your collections of phrases. They're basically like chunks of phrases, and you sequence them into your song. We have 8 tracks to work with, and I got a tip from Mikey303, who is one of the people that is very good at this device. He gave me a tip. He's like, start your chains as the number of the track that they're on. So we'd start 8 at 80, we'd start 7 at 70, etc., etc., etc. Because the values of this are hexadecimal, we get 16. We get 1 to 0. All the way to 1F. So you have plenty to work with within there, especially since most of your variations are going to be going on in the phrase level. So let's talk about why I use 4 phrases in these things. 4 bars is a really good musical chunk. Sometimes you want things to happen every 4 bars. My main phrasing in terms of music is usually 8 bars, but this gives me a little bit more control over variation. I can make patterns that have all the same thing in it if I need to, or I can do a little bit of sort of phrase variation in here. So what I've done right here is like I've created one phrase that's going to play one type of material. The second phrase is going to have a variation, go back to the original, and then I'll have another variation at the end. This is very useful for creating basic forms of variation in your phrases or in your chains. You sort of have a base level idea, you iterate a little bit, go back to it, and then iterate big on the outro. This is a very common sort of iteration you'll see in my phrases. I am going to be releasing everything from the album Rituals as a bundle, meaning that you'll be able to grab all the songs in their tracker format and dig through them, and you'll see a lot of this. Now, you might be wondering, oh, should I name my phrases to the track that they're on? And I don't do that. I'm usually in a pretty big rush to just get ideas down. What I'll do is I'll hit edit, Edit goes to the next blank iteration of anything in here. So for instance, if I wanted to make a new chain here, I could go edit, and it would go to 11. So this is really, really useful. You can see here we're on 6. If I was to go over to this chain and I was going to go edit, it would go to 7. So you just can continually iterate in this manner. Just don't forget edit is your friend. It works with instruments as well. So every entry here has to have an instrument, and edit will go to the next blank one, which is really, really useful. So we've set up our blank spacer pattern. We've set up our kill pattern. We are now creating our phrases, our chains of phrases, excuse me, with their numbers that are connected to the channel. And what's next? One of the things you'll probably be doing a lot of when you're making stuff in the tracker is creating new sort of like slight variations on stuff you've already made. And you don't want to start from a blank pattern. You don't want to start from a blank thing. You want to be able to like kind of adjust the sequence you made before. I'll show you what I mean. So listen to this. This chain is made up of 4 phrases. We have our little motif, followed by a blank pattern. And then I want this one, the second iteration of this, to have a slight variation on it. So in the past, before I read the manual, I was going in here and I was copying everything, and I was going back and I was going to a new pattern and I was pasting it. But that's hell, and that's not how you should do it. In fact, the Mate has a really cool cloning system, and it works on this level, works on instruments, it works on pretty much anything. And we can do that by holding Shift, Option, and then hitting Edit. You say clone phrase 7 to 8. So now I can come in here, and make a variation. The same thing works for full chains. So let's see, I have this drum thing over here, just a basic kick drum. If I wanted to create a variation of that, I could hold Shift and Option to select it. And then if I hit Edit once, what it's going to do is just take all the stuff inside of it and duplicate it to a new chain number, which doesn't really help me that much in terms of making a full variation inside. But you can actually hit Edit twice. And if we go into this, you'll see that originally our phrase was 04. And if we go into this now, in this new version, you'll see that it's 05. So that's called a deep clone. You have your phrases inside your chain, and you can top level clone them or deep clone them depending on what you want to do. So what I'd actually like to do here is, I'm going to just go ahead and delete this. I'll show you a reason that you might want to use the first level cloning. So if I hit Shift, Option, whoops, Shift, Option, and Edit, I've cloned the chain. Now I can come in here and clone this last phrase and give myself like a little extra kick drum. So now I have a little 4-bar phrase. Does that make sense? You're going to be doing a lot of copying and iterating, and the clone system, by selecting and hitting Edit, or hitting double Edit in the case of these chains to do a deep clone, will allow you to quickly create variations on the fly without having to like manually copy paste stuff, which is super cool. All right, let's talk about some instrument stuff. So we have these 2 little things going on right here. I'd like my bass to be louder, and I'd like my lead to be a little quieter. So let's go into the instrument and see what we got. And the reason I'm bringing this up is probably really obvious to most people who get this, but my brain is stupid and I missed this. So I would go in, I would hit up and go to my envelopes that I have assigned to volume, and I would see, oh, amount. If I turn this down, it turns down the whole thing. So that's how I was manually adjusting the overall volume of an instrument. But then I finally saw over here, we have a dry, chorus, delay, and wet. And what these are your effects mixes. And my brain saw the chorus and delay and reverb, but I never realized the dry. So this is how you balance your entire instrument, and you can actually kill the dry completely, which is really, really cool for a lot of things. It's good for transitions, it's good for pads. It's just a really, really wonderful technique to create nothing but just that wet sound. So Don't sleep on this little cluster here, not just to balance the volume of your instrument, but also to adjust the overall volume of your instrument. Let's talk about tables really quick because I think that they're kind of scary. Tables are this extra feature in the in the instrument. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and put just a C down, a C6, C5. Okay, we got no instrument assigned to this, so let's make one real quick. That pulse is fine. I'm going to turn on the cutoff frequency, turn on the low pass. Okay, so if we clicked shift over again, we get this rapidly going friend here. And what this is, it's a table. This is a whole nother set of things that you can affect the instrument with. It becomes part of the instrument, thinking of it like a little extra set of automatable things. And it can run at different rates. Right now it's running at what's called tick rate 1, table tick 1. There are 6 ticks per step. The whole thing runs at, I think, 24 ppq. So we can edit that table tick speed, and it will actually tell you, it's very nice, it'll tell you down here, right here, how many ticks and steps you have. So 1 step means that this table now moves at your step rate. So this is pretty cool, and we can actually use this to create arpeggios. So let's do that. Remember, we just have a single C5 over here, right? So if I come into this, I can start offsetting that note. So we're able to create this little arpeggio just built in to the thing. Here, let's go ahead and turn up our cutoff frequency a little bit. Now, watch what happens if I re-trigger this. And repitch it. Let's go back to the table. See how it's resetting? So that's one way you can use tables. And if we were actually able to, if we actually went back to this, you can hear that we could turn this into a very fast little arp, which is pretty silly. If we go down here, we can add something called a hop command. That last row, and it will stop. And you can put this wherever you want. What else can we do with this? Well, the fact that it's like one attack, basically, and it's one envelope stage means that we can turn this into sort of like a shaped event. If we were to go back to our tick and adjust this, we can get really cool polyrhythms. Another really cool thing we can do with this, stop playing, is sidechain. So there's a couple ways we can do this. The one way that Mikey showed me is pretty cool. So let's go make our bass a lot bigger. I'm going to use one of the amp modes over here. I really like the post AD one. Got a nice distortion on that. And some chorus. So now our bass is pretty big, so we might want to sidechain it. Well, that's on channel 1, or track 1. So let's go into our kick drum here, and go into its table, and we'll see that we have, you know, the same sort of thing that we saw before. And let's go ahead and go to our commands here, and we have one that is track 1 volume. So we can actually pump another track's volume in this table. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to just kind of increase this over time. I know there's an easier way to do this, incremental stuff. I just can't remember what it is. I know there's a command to iterate the volume better. And I'm really sorry that I don't know that off the top of my head. All right. And then we'll put, we want this to actually get up to E0. That's the default. So There we go. That should work. Okay, now we're going to come into here and we're going to put a hop. I'm going to put a hop command here and we're going to say to row. Yeah, that looks about right. Listen to these two together. So there's our bass. Now remember, our kick drum, the instrument itself, has something that is sending a volume command to channel 1 of this. So let's go ahead and bring that in. See, now we got that pump. So that's one way you can do sidechaining. You can use the table to change another track's volume over time, which is pretty cool. There's another way too. You can do it in the table of the instrument itself, but then you wouldn't get you wouldn't be able to have like this rhythmic diversity that we have here. So if you want something to react to your kick, it's best that you put it on the kicks table. Let's say that you want to have a slight amount of portamento. Well, you can build that in to every note. So I'm going to use the slide command. So now every note has a little tiny bit of slide at the beginning. Another fun thing we can do is add a little bit of vibrato at the end. There we go. So depth. And you can put this wherever you want. Now you can hear at the end, we have vibrato. So if I go back to this and change the hold, it's a much more interesting lead than what we had before, based on what we did with the tables. So don't sleep on tables. I know they're weird. They go by really fast when you first look at them and you're like, what the hell is this? But just think of them as like a whole nother really cool sort of lane of automation that can either affect the thing that you're working on right now, meaning the instrument that you're working on right now, you can have it affect it, or you can have it affect something else, meaning that you can create very cool, like interrelated parts within the tracker itself. All right, let's truck slice markers real quick. This one's really fun. So make a new pattern and let's go in and create a new instrument. Oh, I really like that. It's cool. Okay, new instrument. Let's go to sampler and let's load up a drum loop. That's pretty cool. Okay, so if we go down here to slice, if I hit edit and then hit up, I will immediately install 16 slices in there, or I can go down to 8. I can go down to whatever I want. And this is primarily how a lot of people are going to use slices. You go back to your phrase here, and now every note is a slice. But I find that sometimes I need to adjust it to be a little bit more or less, depending on how much granularity you need. I'm going to go ahead and put the low pass, high pass filter on here and filter out some of that low end. Okay. So that's all well and good, but one of the things that's really useful is slice to file. And this means that you basically are going to put markers in the thing, and it's going to allow you to slice by those. All right, so let's go ahead and load something up and slice it by file. One of the things I found this to really useful for is vocals. Not like you. All right, let's mess with this one. If I was to slice this one, I would have all kinds of, if I was to slice this one with just like a regular slice amount, I would have all kinds of issues. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to edit and we're going to get a waveform. Isn't that nice? I'm just going to make some file slices real quick. So if we go down here, we say slice marker 1, and now we can zoom in. And like you. Wonderful. So let's go to 2 and we'll make that come over here. When you hit up and down, you go in great amounts. And then when you hit left or right, it zooms in, which is just really brilliant, honestly. Hi. Come on, get over there. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to come down here and say overwrite. And now, if I go to here and file, and I go back here, I should have those exact slice marks that I put in here. And I do, and that's honestly rad as hell. All right, the low pass, high pass filter in this is really, really useful. So let's go back to our vocal right here. It's the last filter available, LP-HP right here. And what this will do is instead of resonance is now high pass and this is low pass. So this is incredibly useful if you want to do some kind of like, here, I'll show you real quick. If we were to go to our bass and change this to high pass, low pass, you can hear that between low pass and low pass, high pass, with no resonance, the sound doesn't change. But now I can thin this out if I want, which is really, really cool. I use this a lot for just mixing. It's kind of like the second filter on the Digitone Digitac kind of thing. Vocals and a lot of samples have a lot of low end that I want to just get rid of. So that's very useful. Another cool one is band pass. Band stop, excuse me. So here's a little basic pad. Doesn't really have much movement to it. But if we go over to our filter and change this to band stop, and then go to our LFO and change this to cutoff. Slow it way down. Go back to our filter and find... Ah, there it is. Listen to that juicy phaser sound. Combine that with a pan, and you essentially have like a classic phasery sound. I think it's cool. This next tip is sort of just a general mixing tip. We don't have access to a compressor in here. So if you want to sort of change volume of things in response to their dynamics, you can do that, but you just have to be a little tricky. You can come in to any of your tracks and you can change the volume over time by using a command in here. For instance, we have access to the whole track channel. I wouldn't recommend doing that. We need to get a... So we have a volume, which is a relative command, but we can completely modulate volume over time. So if you are making a track and you find yourself something sticking out too much, I had this happen a lot with vocals and guitar, I would just drop a volume command on there and drop it down a little bit, essentially creating my own manual compression. It's just a really, really useful way to manage your levels, and you don't have to be without that sort of dynamic control, dynamic range control in a tracker. You just need to be a little smart about it. Oh yeah, you can also use the velocity command, by the way, to manage the volume of something, but in terms of the dynamic range trick we talked about earlier, but that's not going to help you if the sound is in the middle of its thing and you don't have a thing to put down right there. Velocity is about the initial hit of the sound itself. Let's talk about the repeat command. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to repeat it 4 times. That's not the repeat command. Don't listen to that. The repeat command is a really cool command that allows you to iterate a previous effect. And a lot of the ways that this could be used for is for making things get louder or quieter over time. Let's make a new instrument. Okay, so let's go ahead and make a macro synth here. I'm going to go up to the snare. So we have this snare. It's not bad, honestly. But what if I wanted it to fade in over time? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this the last thing here. So if we come in here and we go over to our things here, let's start with our, what do you use it? Color and timbre, since those are the cool controls. So we will put color at 0. We will put color and timbre at 0. And now if we go up here and put a repeat command here and here and give it a plus like 4 or so, we'll just do like a big amount for right now, and then I'll show you how I actually use it. See how it's iterating that command up? Now, if I was to try to get this whole 4-bar chunk to play, it would reset every time because that command's right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clone that channel, that phrase. God, the verbiage on here. I feel like I'm trying to explain quantum physics. And then I'm going to go like that. It will just keep going. So already we're getting a cool snare rise. Let's go ahead and make this a lot smaller. We'll make it 2, like that. You hear how it rose over time? I think that's pretty neat. When you do that, though, I do recommend putting a kill command after that, because those will just keep on going up and they'll actually affect whatever's in the thing next, even if it wasn't the instrument that had that command added to it. I want you to imagine all the ways that you could use that. You could use it on synths, you could use it on cutoff frequencies, you could use it on effects, you can use it on all kinds of things. The repeat command is super, super useful, so you don't have to go in there and like manually iterate every single command that you want. Okay, this video is probably pretty long at this point. My God, 40 minutes. Let's do a little recap real quick. The first thing I suggested was you create a blank chain called FE, and you put 4 blank FEs in there. This is your spacer. You're going to create a blank chain called FD, that kill command on the first things there. And that's your kill channel, your kill phrase. Don't overload your chains with phrases. I find 4 to be a really, really good number. Use in the instruments these dry chorus and delay and reverb things to mix your sound, especially post distortion. Because if you really want to blow this out, you can just turn it around right afterwards. And there's nothing nicer than a really distorted, gnarly sound that just sits perfectly in the mix. Tables can be used for all kinds of things, including sidechaining, like we did here, as well as portamento and other sort of like interesting things you want to do to your sound. You can actually get really wicked with tables, and there are some videos out there showing it off. I am not in the position to really tell you how to get wicked with tables yet. I just wanted to show you some basic things to make you not be scared of them. We talked about being able to make your own slice markers in the sample edit page so that you could really just like move through something exactly how you wanted. But we also showed that you can just slice something in equal increments or odd increments if you want, which is super cool. We talked about the usefulness of the low pass high pass filter for mixing, how we can get rid of some bass and also manage our top end if we want. And we talked about that the band stop is actually really, really cool as a phaser if you get it just put correctly in the right spot and put an LFO on it. It sounds really cool. We talked about using velocity and the volume command or the amp command to basically act as your own little manual compressor so that you can create dynamic range control if something gets out of hand using the effects that are built into here since we don't have a compressor. We talked about the repeat effect and how it can iterate on volume or any other command or any other synth command or effect command to create some really easy to make increment and decrement in, did I say decrement? Decrement in things like snare rises, but also things like cutoff frequencies and stuff like that for like synth lines. And finally, the number one tip that I have with this is not technical at all, and that is the greatest strength of this little friend is your ability to take it anywhere and listen to it in any setting. And there's something truly magical about the way it obfuscates what's going on under the hood. I mean, this doesn't look like music to you, does it? everything that you look at in a DAW is constantly coloring your perception of what you're making in the DAW. All those little events going by, your ability to instantly stop or move a mouse or something like that, just like it divorces you from the listening experience. And I think more than ever, I'm finding that the listening experience is the most important part of making music. I know, does that sound crazy? This thing, because I can just pick it up, put headphones in, I can treat it like a Walkman basically. And I have the songs that I made for the Rituals album, I listen to a lot, just like brushing my teeth or like going for a walk or something like that. And I was able to listen to it as a observer, not as a producer. And that was wonderful. So don't be afraid to embrace the fact that this thing is portable and you can just hit play and enjoy whatever you're working on. And I think that's wonderful. So I'll be posting more about the album when it comes out. Rituals will be out on March 18th. There'll be a pre-save link in the description if you want. Patrons will get it for free. And I'll be releasing the bundles for all that. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm really, really, really excited about those songs. I think they're really fun. Thanks for watching. I hope this was useful to you. If you have any good mate tips and tricks or places that you would suggest other people to check out for mate tips and tricks, please put them in the comments below. Otherwise, I'll talk to you soon. My name is Jeremy. This is Red Means Recording, and I hope you have a wonderful day.